So we are recording now. So in every economy, there are major participants. The major participants of an economy, specifically in a market-driven economy, is the consumers. And then on the other hand, we have the firms, the companies. The firms are the ones that produce all goods and services, and the consumers are the ones that demand the goods and services. Companies produce, individuals consume. In order for companies to produce, companies need to buy resources. But in order to buy resources, they only have one source. In other words, who are the owners of the resources? Well, the owners of the resources are the households, the individuals. Individuals own companies, individuals own resources. So a company goes to individuals, they buy the resources, they pay for those resources, for the land, for the labor, for the capital, whatever they are buying from individuals. Then individuals have the money, and then individuals use that money to be able to buy the goods and services that individuals, the companies are producing. So that's what we call the circular flow of income and product, how everything flows in the economy. Let me give you an example right here. I'm gonna go to my, okay, hold on right here. Let me go ahead and allow me to share my other screen. Okay. So let's see if it works. And I think it's working. Okay. So I was telling you that the economies in the economy, usually, let's assume that this is a nation right here. This is a nation. And in this nation, we have the households, which is the individuals like me and you, and we have the firms. Well, in order for companies to produce, they need resources. The households sell the resources to the firms, and they sell these resources, so these factors of productions, in the factor market. The factor market is where companies buy resources. Okay, this type of resources, includes land, labor, and capital. The company uses these resources, and the companies are able to produce goods and services, and they sell these products on the product market, right? And individuals buy these products on the product market. So that's what is called the circular flow of income and product. Income flows from the firms to the households, and then it flows back to the firms. Inputs flow from households to firms, and then it comes back to the households. And that's how the economy works. So the economy functions like this. The companies produce all the aggregate supply, all the products in the economy, and the households are the major players in the aggregate demand. They are the ones that buy the goods and services. So as you can see, besides the households and the firms, then we also have the government. The government is another major player in the economy. The government gives money to people. The government takes money from people. The government buys from companies. The firms buy from companies. The government also uses this money, and the government also buys goods and services. So then the major participants in the economy is the firms, the households, and the government. It doesn't really matter it doesn't have to be in that order, but they are the major players. In addition to that, then we have foreigners. In other words, we have people from other nations. We buy from people in other nations, and then we also sell to people in other nations. So then the actual participants in an economy that is an open economy, in other words, we trade with other people, is not only the firms, the households, and the government, but also have now the foreign participants. Now, if the economy is closed, in other words, if we don't trade with nobody, then these do not exist. So this is the fundamental way in which the economy works. And that creates benefits, and it creates some problems and some dilemmas of how we're going to control this level of economic activity. Just to give you an example. Presently, the firms already have inventories that they have produced. They have inventories because companies produce in advance of specific seasons. For example, let's say the spring season was already produced, and the households were going to be the one that were going to buy these new fashions of the spring seasons. Well, as you already know, as a result of the coronavirus, these households have decided to postpone their consumption. So instead of the money going back to the firms, this money, individuals, is now actually going into savings. So this money is now going into financial institutions, and individuals are not consuming. And this is creating a problem, a very serious problem. At this point, just last month, savings in the United States increased by 13%. Right now, what is the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is that if people are not buying, companies are not producing. If companies are not producing, companies are not hiring workers. And if workers are not working, then there's no income, there's no consumption, no production, and the unemployment begin to decrease. I was just looking at the numbers. This morning about how this coronavirus has impacted the participants in the market. And just to give you an idea, 40% of all workers in the United States that earn less than $40,000 have lost their jobs. Now think about that for a second. 40% of all workers, 4 out of every 10 workers in the United States that earn less than $40,000 a year have lost their jobs. Most of these individuals are the individuals that they actually working in non-professional jobs. Low-skilled workers, servers, washers, drivers, delivery guys, things like that, which simply means that the coronavirus has impacted the individuals in the low end of the spectrum, specifically in the income distribution. Okay, and if you have been following the news, as you already know, the government is trying to create a second rescue package, and the second rescue package is coming for Congress on Friday, 3 days from today, and the government wants to pump $3 trillion worth of money into the economy. Okay, the idea is to go ahead and give families again $1,200 per person, right, and $1,200 per children. At this point, up to 3 children. So the government wants to put about $6,000 for a family of, 3 children and two adults and 3 children that make less than $75,000, about $6,000 to be able to help them. In other words, the government is desperately trying to find a solution to the situation that we have. And the situation that we have now is that we have about 50% of the US population that is actually now unemployed. Okay, so we're trying to understand the situation of the market and how it actually works. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with the PowerPoint, and you will be able to see this situation that is taking place. Okay, so we go right here and begin. Okay, so then the question is, who are the participants in the market? And I already gave you an introduction. The main participants in the markets are the consumers, the firms, and the government. Now, what does consumers want to do? Well, consumers always want to maximize their utility. Utility is a word that we use in economics to describe satisfaction, happiness. So in other words, what do individuals want to do with the income they earn? Well, they always try to spend their money on those things that they believe is going to give them the greatest happiness, the greatest satisfaction. Okay, so that's what consumers do. Now, what do business want to maximize? Well, business want to maximize profits. And the way they maximize profits is by selling the products that they're actually making. And they try to make these products at the lowest possible cost. And then the government is the third major player in the economy. And what does the government want to maximize? Well, the government wants to maximize the general welfare of society. Okay, these are the 3 major players in the economy. So as you already know, a nation it's impossible for a nation to be able to produce everything they need. It's impossible for a nation to produce everything they need. So then as a result of this, the nations have no other choice, but they have to actually trade with other nations, right? So what happens is a nation will specialize on producing those products that they can do better at a lower cost, and then they will buy from other nations those products that they actually need. For example, in the United States, we don't worry about planting coffee trees because it will be cheaper for us to buy the coffee from Costa Rica, from Brazil, or from Thailand or Asian markets than to try to produce it over here. So as you can see, this is the next player on the market that gets involved, and that will be international players, okay? In addition to this, we also produce more than what we need. So if we produce more than what we need, what we do, we actually trade these with other nations, we buy them, okay? So this is the application of, or the logic of international trade. Why does international trade take place? Very simple. International trade takes place because other countries can produce things better than us, and it will be cheaper for us to buy them than instead of making them. And other nations buy from us because we make things that they are not able to produce, or probably we can produce it at a lower price. Okay, and that's what's called the circle of flow of income in the economy. These are the major participants. Okay, so consumers are the owners of the factors of productions, and we sell these factors of productions in the factor market. Now, the companies use this, they create products, and then they sell these products in the product market. So those are the two major markets in the economy: the market where companies buy resources, and the market where companies sells the actual goods and services, right? Again, if we look at a circle that's playing that, it looks something like this. Okay. The companies produce all goods and services. In order to make those goods and services, we need factors of production, we need inputs, we need raw material, we need workers, we need technology, we need machinery, and things like that. And the owners of the factors of production are the consumers. So the consumers sell in the factor market, companies buy in the factor market, consumers have money, and as a result of this, then consumers will be able to demand goods and services. So as you can see, it's almost like a clock and counterclockwise direction of how goods flow from companies to consumers, and how the income flows from firms to consumers back to the firms. Okay. In addition to that, then we also have communications with other nations. Like I told you, we buy and sell from other nations. Okay. Let me stop right here and ask if there's any questions about what we're learning. It's very simple. So who are the major players in the economy? Firms?
Consumers or houses?
Houses. What else? Households, firms,
government,
and the government. And then we have another major player that is
foreigners.
Yeah, foreigners or international participants. Okay. So we'll continue then. So I'm not going to ask you this exercise because we already did it. Okay. So then the question is, so what is a market? Where is a market? Well, a market is any place where a transaction takes place. It's a place where we go buy and sell something, or we exchange something, right? It can be on the street, it can be in your house, it can be on the phone, it can be in the computer, it can be on your smart cell phone. I mean, think about this. I mean, you can actually go on your phone and actually be able to buy something from somebody in China, right? By making a transaction on eBay or in Amazon, right? So that's a market. A market exists wherever an exchange or transaction takes place. And again, every market transaction involves an exchange. This transparency is actually wrong. Say every market transaction involves an exchange of dollars for goods and services. Well, that is wrong. Every market transaction involves an exchange of something of value. It doesn't have to be dollars. You can pay in Japanese yens, or you can pay in euros, or you can pay in Mexican pesos. So it's just something of value. For example, in many cases, there are some markets in which people just exchange items. They specialized markets in which, for example, guys that love motorcycles like me, we can go to a market in which people can actually barter or exchange, motorcycle parts. That's a market. It doesn't have to be money involved. It's just something of value. Okay, so then in these markets, there are two major energies or two major forces taking place, two major laws, and that's the foundations of economic transactions, which is simply the fundamental law of supply and the fundamental law of demand. Now think about this. The suppliers of products are the firms. What do firms want to maximize? What do firms want to maximize?
profit,
Profits. What do consumers want to maximize?
Utility.
Utility, satisfaction. Now, if I only have $25 and I want to maximize my utility, where am I going to spend my money?
Where there are the cheapest products.
Okay, so in other words, I want to spend my money on those items that I believe are going to give me the greatest satisfaction. Okay, so now think about this. To get the greatest satisfaction, that means that I'm going to get the biggest utility, the biggest satisfaction, or I'm going to pay the lowest price. So then consumers are always there trying to pay the lowest possible price for whatever they consume, right? On the other hand, companies, to maximize the profits, they want to sell the product at the highest possible price. So then we have two forces. Firms want to maximize profits by selling at a high price. Consumers want to maximize utility or pleasure by buying at the lowest price. So then the question is, well, what is going to be the price of a product in the market? And that's where the basic foundations of economics takes place, which is the law of supply and the law of demand. So we're going to try to understand why prices go up, why prices come down, why we have surpluses, why do we have shortages, you know, and this is the thing that we're going to learn in this chapter, the basic laws of supply and demand. So then what is supply? Well, supply is the amount of goods in the market that people are willing to sell at different prices, right? And demand is the amount of products that individuals are willing to buy at specific prices. Okay, so then these two forces, right, come into the market, and to be able to explain these laws, we're going to make an assumption that nothing else is going to change. And let me explain why we need to understand the idea of nothing else is going to change. Think about this. There are two products in the market. We have a pizza in one hand, and we have burgers on the other hand. We have pizzas and burgers. So which of these two products are you going to buy? Well, there's a lot of factors that are going to determine what product you're going to buy. Are you hungry? Do you like, you know, the product that is being offered to you? But let's assume that you love both products the same. You love pizza and you love burgers. So if you love burgers and you love pizza, and to you it doesn't really matter, you're always going to buy the least expensive ones, right? Now, you don't buy steak because a steak is too expensive. Okay, so in your case, you are college students, your choices in real life is mostly, you know, between burgers and pizza. A steak is, you know, only when you go with mom and dad and they pay for the bill. Okay, so now, if the price of pizza comes down, you're going to buy more pizza because now it's cheaper than burgers. If the price of burgers come down, now you're going to buy more burgers because it's cheaper than pizza. But what's going to happen if both of them come down at the same time? And both of them come down by the same amount? Which one are you going to buy? And the answer is, we don't know. Why we don't know? Because more than one thing change at a time. In this idea of trying to understand economics and this model, we have to make an assumption, and the assumption is that only one thing change at a time. Okay? For example, let me go with the same example, burgers and pizza. If the price of burgers goes up, you're going to buy less. If the price of pizza goes up, you're going to buy less. Well, how about if the price of both goes up? Well, you're probably still going to buy less. But what happens if the price of both goes up and then the price of steak comes down? Right? Then you're probably going to move into the consumption of steaks. So that's the basic laws of economics, which simply means the higher the price, the less the quantity demanded, right? So we're going to take the next 45 minutes to try to explain this dilemma of the law of demand and the law of supply. So let's try to understand the law of demand. The law of demand simply says this. In a given time period, the quantity demanded of a good is going to go up if the price falls, ceteris paribus, and vice versa, which simply means when the price goes up, we buy less. When the price comes down, we buy more. Okay, but again, we are making an assumption, and the assumption is ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus is Latin that means if nothing else changes. So in other words, for the law of demand to apply, nothing else can change, only at the thing that we are looking or the thing that we're trying to explain. So then, as you can see, there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. When the price goes up, we buy less quantities. When the price comes down, then we buy more quantities. Put this in your notes. This is very important for you to know. Changes in prices changes the quantities that we buy. Again, let me Say this again. Price changes quantities. So price changes the quantities of an item that we buy. If the price goes up, we buy less quantities. If the price comes down, we buy higher quantities, okay? So again, then the demand for a product depends on a couple of factors. Number one is, can I afford it, right? Do I have the income? What is the price of this item, right? So then as a result of this, then the price of items in the market is determined by the forces of supply and demand. So then the market demand is the collective summation of all buyers in the market. Look, let's assume that the four of you, are in the market. And let's assume that the market is very limited. This is, I don't know, a restaurant, right? And you come into my restaurant and I'm selling burgers. And if I lower the price of my burgers, you're going to buy probably more burgers. So then the question is, what is the total market demand? Well, for example, if Nathaniel purchased 2 burgers with a new price, and Michael buys 2 burgers, and Chan buys 2 burgers, and Alex buys 1 burger, then the total market demand is 7 burgers at a new price. So again, the market demand is the demand of the total market of all the participants. Now the same thing goes with supply. Now think about the supply of gasoline. The market supply of gasoline is the total gasoline being offered by all the gasoline providers. And the demand for gasoline is determined by all the individuals buying gasoline. So we have the aggregate demand for gasoline, all drivers that want to put gas on their cars. And the supply is all gasoline stations selling gasoline. Now, again, a market is not just one market. Because think about, for example, the market for gasoline. Geographically speaking, the market for gasoline in Cleveland can be totally different than the market for gasoline in New York City or in California. Right? For example, there can be more suppliers in one place, or there can be more people buying that product in one geographical area. So when we're talking about a market, we're talking about in a specific geographical area. I mean, we can do about averages as a whole, or the whole market, but for simplicity in this case, we're talking about market in a small geographical area. Okay? So then the law of demand is very simple to explain. If we were to create a demand curve, it goes something like this. Look at this. Let's assume that this is the demand for this product. This is the demand for this product. When the price is 50, let's assume this is you. You only want to buy one product because the price is too high. But when the price dropped to 45, now you buy in 2, 40, you buy 3, and as you can see, the lower the price, the more units you're going to buy. So at a price of 10, you're buying 20 units. But if the price you jump to 30, you only buy 7 units. So every time the price changes, the price go ups and down, the quantity demanded is going to be affected. So what is the demand at a price of 30? Well, as you can see, at a price of 30, that demand is only 7 units. Now, how do people behave, or how do you behave when the price drops from 30 to 25? I'm asking a question. When it dropped from 30 to 25, what did you do?
You bought 2 more units?
Exactly. So you increase the quantity demanded. You increase the number of units you're going to buy. So, and again, the quantity demanded is the number of units that we actually buy. Okay. So again, let me explain it right here. Very simple. And it goes like this. The demand for a product can be represented very easy by a downward sloping curve. We have price and we have quantity. On this example, at a price of 10, you only want to buy 3 units. The price dropped to 8, you're probably going to buy 4 units, and the price dropped to 6. Let's say in this case, you're buying 5 units. So as you can see, every time the price changes, you change the quantities you buy. The demand, your desire has not changed. Your ability has not changed. So then the demand curve is your willingness to buy a specific product. Right? So then when prices changes, the only thing that changes is changes in the quantities you buy. And those are changes in the same line. Look, when the price is 8, you were at point A. You were buying 4 units. When the price dropped to 6, now you increase your consumption and now you're buying point B, which is 5 units. So you move from point A to point B. If the price increased to 10, then you go all the way to over here, and then now you're going to buy at point C. So then changes in prices, remember this, changes in prices make changes in the same curve, right? Those are called changes in quantities. Now, there are other things that can change my demand curve. For example, let's assume that this is me. This is my demand, price, quantity. At a price of $20 a steak, let's say I only go twice every 6 months to go buy steak because it's too expensive. Okay, this is me. I go twice a year, to buy steak because it's too expensive. Now, but what will happen if there's a change in income? If there's a change in income, let's say I get a pay raise, or let's assume that one of you, I don't know, you marry a wealthy lady, now you have a lot of money. So as a result of this, your demand for steak is going to go up simply now because you have more money. So you really don't care about the price because now you can afford to buy, let's say, 8 steaks instead of 2 because now you have more income. On the other hand, let's assume that this is you, let's assume that you marry money and now you're eating steak because your partner is having a very good job and you're enjoying the good life, and now your partner or you lose your job. If you lose your job, what's going to happen to your demand? Your demand is going to decrease, and now instead of buying 8 steaks like before, now you're only going to buy, let's say, 2 steaks. Right? Your demand shift. It went this way, it disappeared because your income changes. So then, what are some of the things that can change demand? Okay, so there's a couple of things that can change the demand. Okay, so the things that can change the demand will be, for example, change in taste. Right? Let's assume that there's something that you no longer like. Right? It will be like this. Okay, so we come back to this, and this is you. This is something that you really like. And let's say at a price of, hold on for a second, my computer just, froze. Let me come back. Okay, let me come back to, okay, what are you looking on your screen now, guys? Are you looking at a little graph that I put, or are you looking at the PowerPoint slides?
PowerPoint
slides.
Okay, the PowerPoint slide. Yeah, my computer, my iPad froze now. Let me see if I can, yeah. It's not working. Okay, so think about something that you really like, right? And if there's something that you really like, then you're going to buy more units of that. So if your taste changes, that can change your demand curve. Think about the things that you used to buy in the past. Things that you used to like when you were a small young man or a younger woman. I mean, there were things that you used to buy because you liked them. But now your tastes have changed and now you're buying less units. So things that can change the demand will be taste, income, right? Expectations, right? And the price of other products. Okay. So these are things that can actually change the demand curve. I'm trying to see if I can come back to my iPad. Is actually totally frozen. I have no idea what's going on here. Okay, So let's see if I can continue with this. So then, when price of an item changes, what's going to change? If the price of bottled water increases, what are people going to do?
Buy less of it.
They're going to buy less water, right? So now, on the other hand, let's see what happened, for example, if your taste for water decreases. If your taste for water decreases, you don't care about the price. You're still not going to buy it because you don't like it, right? Now, think about your income. If the price of an item goes up, your quantity demanded is going to come down. But what happens if your income goes up? Well, if your income goes up, then the whole demand curve is going to shift to the right? The same thing with expectations. Now, if you expect that the price of something is going to be higher next month, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy more this month, or are you going to wait till next month? And the answer is you will wait until next month because things are going to be less expensive next month. Okay. Any questions? Did I lost someone? Okay. Again, I'm trying to. Okay, so we're back in the PowerPoints, right? That's what you're looking at. Okay, so then things that can change the demand curve is taste, income, expectations, and the price of other products. Right. So those things actually shift the supply curve. It actually moves the curve, and also the number of buyers. So then a taste or a change in any of these factors changes the demand. Quantity demanded takes place as a result of a changes in prices. Let me explain this how it works. Look at this. This is your initial demand. If the price is 40, you only buy in 5 units. If the price drop, let's say to 25, then you're going to buy more quantities. So then a movement on the same line can only be caused by changes in prices. But other things can shift the demand. The demand can shift to the right or to the left, right, as a result of a change in income, change in taste, change in expectations, change in the number of buyers. Now, can any of you give me an example of how a change in expectation, can change your demand curve to the left or to the right?
If you think the economy is going to go down, then you may still want burgers just as much, but you're going to withhold purchase because of fear of the market.
Okay, so in this case, the demand curve will shift to the left.
That
right?
would go to the left, yeah.
Yeah, it will go to the left. On the other hand, if you have a very optimistic future about the future, then your demand curve will shift to the right. So shifts of movements on the demand curve can only take place as a result of a lot of reasons except price. Price cannot make a shift in the demand. Keep that in mind. Okay? So now the law of supply is the opposite. Now we're talking about the producers. So the law of supply says this: the quantity of a good supply in a given time will increase as the price increases. Ceteris paribus. This is the way I will explain it. If I am a producer and you want to pay me higher prices for my products, then I have an incentive to produce more. But if you don't want to pay me the right price for my products and you want to pay me a lower price, then I'm going to produce less. So then changes in prices changes the quantity supply up or down based on the directions of the price. Price goes up, I sell more. Price comes down, I sell less. So then prices affect supply on a direct relationship. They go up, they go up. It come down, it come down. But for supply, for consumers, it's the other way around. The quantity demand move inversely related to the change in price. When the price goes up, we buy less. When the price comes down, we buy more, okay? So then there's a direct relationship between price and the quantity supplied, right? And the supply curve looks something like this. It's an upper sloping curve. If you want to pay me only $20, right? I only want to sell you 5, but if you pay me 50, I'm willing to sell you 20. Look at this. At a price of 50, I'm willing to sell you 20 units, right? But at a price of 30, I'm only willing to sell you 10 units. Why do you believe the producer only want to sell you 10 units at a price of 30? What will be some reasons? Or what will be some explanation why the producer will be willing to sell you 20 units when the price goes from 30 to 50?
Are they trying to maximize profit and they know if they sell more, they won't make as much money?
And yeah, in addition to that, probably now at a price of 50, this is a price high enough that will allow the producer to make more units or to make higher profits, or they will be able to cover all the cost of production. At a higher price, they will be able to buy a new machine, hire a new worker, increase their output, whatever the case may be, and then the company will be able to produce more. Think about it. Higher prices makes the company more profitable, more resources they can accomplish, or they will be able to pay for what they need to be able to produce what the market is actually demanding. Okay. Now, but if you only want to pay me $10, then I only want to sell you 1. So this is the law of supply. Now, the supply curve, this line here, can also change to the right or to the left for other reasons. So let me give you a list of the factors that can change the supply curve. For example, if there's a change in technology. Now, how does technology changes supply? Well, think about this company. This company is selling 10 units at a price of 30. Let's assume that we are right here. And now this company is able to buy a new machine that is going to allow to produce more items at a lower production cost. So then because of the new technology, the company is going to be able to sell more units, even if the price is still at 30, because the new technology is allowing that company to produce at a lower production cost. So technology can increase supply to the right. Now, can you think of an example in which technology will shift the supply to the left? Well, how about if we destroy the technology? Have you ever thought about, for example, what is the first thing that military strategists do when they are at war with other nations? What is the first thing they destroy? When they are in combat with other nations, what's the first thing that we destroy?
Factories?
Yeah, factories, the infrastructure. So we destroy the factories, the infrastructure, and as a result of this, then the supply of whatever these governments are doing will shift to the left. They're not going to be able to make tanks or cars or military equipment. So we shift the technology, we destroy the technology. Other things that can change the supply curve is if there's a change in the factor cost. The cost of raw material. Think about this. You are a construction guy, right? And at this point, let's assume that this is, let me use this example. Let's assume this is houses you are building and this is in thousands. So at a price of $300,000, okay, this is in tens of thousands. At a price of $300,000 a home, your construction company is willing to produce 10 houses every quarter. So you're making, it's a big construction company. You're building 10 houses at a price of $300,000. But now what will happen if, for example, the cost of the material to make these houses increase dramatically. Well, if the cost of the material increase dramatically, you're not gonna be able to make money at a price of 300,000, so then the supply curve will shift to the left, okay? So again, these are things that can change the supply curve, changing factor cost. On the other hand, if the factor cost decreases, then you're going to be able to actually produce more. Taxes and subsidies. If we give a company a reduction in taxes, companies are going to be able to produce more, right? If we subsidize companies, they're going to be able to produce more. If we increase taxes, then companies are going to produce less. Now, what else? Expectations. Now, think about this. What is the expectations for the demand of new automobiles in the near future? What do you think? What is the expectations for the demand of new automobiles in the near future?
Well, they want them to be like a lot more fuel efficient, I think.
Okay, and do you think in the near future people are going to be buying cars? New cars? At this
Maybe.
point, what is the number of people that have lost their jobs? Over 30 million people?
In the near future, no.
Okay, so in the near future, I don't think nobody's going to go out and be excited about buying cars. Auto companies are desperate trying to sell their inventories. Have you seen the ads for buying a new car? Buy a new car, financing through us. We can finance your car at 0 interest rate for up to 84 months. That's 7 years. And some companies say we even pay, or we will pay the first 6 months of your car payments. They're desperate because they have too much inventory. So a lot of car manufacturers, their expectations for the near future is very pessimistic. So do you think the companies are going to increase productivity of cars? And the answer is no. Companies are going to, hold on for a second, guys. I'm going to put you on hold. I saw somebody running in front of my window in my house. Let me see who it is, okay? I had never seen a FedEx guy running. You know, he literally run through the, you know, I'm in the side of my house and I see a young guy running, I mean, like 10 feet away from my yard, you know, and it was the FedEx guy. He runs so fast that I saw it with the corner of my eye. My window is right here. I saw it with the corner of my eye. I said, what's going on? You know, so especially because my house is about a block away from the main street. So in other words, nobody walking my house. Okay, so I guess I have my delivery that I was expecting. My wife is not too happy, but she had no choice. I order a sign for my mailbox, you know, and because my wife always say, you know, we need to put an address or something for the house because the mailbox sometimes, or people do not know when they come to my house. Okay. So let's continue. Okay, let's have a review of the things that we have learned. There are 2 basic laws in economics. One of them is the law of demand. And the law of demand simply says this: as the price goes up, the quantity demanded comes down, and as the price comes down, the quantity demanded goes up. When the price is higher, we buy less. When the price is lower, we buy more. And the law of demand can be represented graphically by a downward sloping curve. You know, let's say at a price of 10, I want to buy 2 units. If the price dropped to 8, then I buy 3 units. And at the price of 6, then I can probably buy 4 units. So again, we have price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. So then when there's a change in price, the movements are in the same line. So every time the price changes, the movements are in the same line. Now there things that can change the demand curve. Okay, number one is a change in income, right? If now I have more money because I get a pay raise, let's say that before I was consuming 3 units at a price of 8. Let's assume this is you, at a price of 8, you were consuming 3 units. Now your income increases. Now you don't care about the price because you have more money, and now you're going to buy more units. On the other hand, if you lose your job, then your demand will decrease, and the price and the quantity demanded will decrease. So that's the law of demand. The law of supply, on the other hand, is an upward sloping curve. Again, we have price, we have quantity, this is the supply. If you want to pay me $10 for my product, I only want to sell you 2 units, but you give me $15, then I can probably sell you 3, and if you give me, let's say, $30, then I'm willing to sell you all the way to 6 units. So as you can see, higher prices changes the quantity supply. So then changes in prices make movements on the same line, up or down. So remember, this is the key, guys. This is the key, and this is going to be on the exam. The only thing that changes the quantities supply or the quantity demanded is price. That's it. The only thing, or you can say it this way, price or changes in price only changes the quantities. Okay? So changes in prices only changes the quantities. Now, there are other things that can change the demand and things that can change the supply. For example, what are the things that can change the supply curve? Okay, what are the things that can change the supply curve? Number one is change in technology, right? The technology can increase the supply. We are willing to produce more at the same price simply because now I have a new machine. What's number two? Changing the
Factor cost.
Factor cost, inputs. If my inputs are cheaper, I can produce more. Number three is what? Expectations. Right? If I expect that people are not going to buy my product, then I produce less. So again, changes are movements of the total line. The line move up or down. I'm sorry, right or left. What is number four?
Taxes and subsidies.
Yeah, if we give a tax or a subsidy, that can change the supply. And number five, I don't think we covered this, but it will be the number of producers, the number of sellers. Think about, for example, let's say here in town, I have used this joke in my class many times. Here in Cleveland, how many Mexican restaurants do we have? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever thought about how many Mexican restaurants do we have in town?
Maybe
Okay.
like 5 or 6.
About 5 or 6. Let's see. We have Ocoee Street. This is Lee University, right? If we go on Ocoee Street, and it's going to go down. So then, as you can see, we have 2 forces in the market, which is the forces of supply and demand. And when we put them together, that's how prices are determined. That's how prices are determined. So let's go right here. So then the things that can change the supply is technology, factor cost, taxes, expectations, right? A number of suppliers, okay? In addition to changes in the price of other goods. Let me explain what this means. For example, if I am a tomato grower, and then my neighbor in the other farm across town, he's growing strawberries. And now I realize that my neighbor is making a killing because the price of strawberries is going up like crazy. Then what am I going to do next harvest season? Well, forget about me planting tomatoes. I'm going to plant strawberries. So as you can see, then the supply of strawberries was affected as a result of other market or prices in another product. Or the supply of tomatoes, in this case, is going to decrease, right? Because now I'm going to grow strawberries instead of tomatoes. Okay, so again, there's a difference between changes in supply and shift in the line. And again, we already went over this list of things, how it actually changes. So then changes in quantities is movements along the supply curve, and those are result of changes in prices. Changes in the supply are movements on the curve. Okay, look at this. This is a producer. At a price of P1, he was selling Q1. The price went to P2, higher price. Now he's willing to sell you more units. This is a change in quantity supply. Instead of selling you, let's say 10, now he's selling you 20. That's a change in quantity supply. Now, but a shift in supply, you know, a movement to the right can take place because of the other factors, the technology, the expectations, the factor cost, the number of suppliers, and so on. So again, we're talking about two different types of individuals or two different types of groups, and all of them are trying to achieve one goal. One of them is utility maximization, and the other one is profit maximization. So then the amount or the price of a product is going to depend on how many producers we have in the market and how much is the total demand for this product. Look at this. This is a product. Well, let me explain it better here. I think it will be easy if I can do it like this. Let's assume that this is the demand for pizza in town, and this is the supply of pizza places in town. And let's say this again, I'm just going to simplify the example. At a price of $10 a large pizza on the average in the city of Cleveland, let's say we consume, let's say 200 pizzas per day, okay? So that's the consumption on this town. Now, what will happen if for some reason the taste for pizza decreases? Well, what's going to shift if the taste for pizza decrease? Supply or demand? Come on, guys, you know.
Demand.
The demand is going to shift. People no longer want to buy the pizza. So when the demand decreases, because people are no longer buying pizza, as the demand decreases, as you can see now, this line move is no longer there, and now we have a lower equilibrium. So the price now went to to $8 because people are only buying 140 units. On the other hand, if the taste of pizza increases, the demand will increase, let's say to this of 3, right? And this line is no longer here because the demand increased. So now we're going to have a higher price. So changes in demand impact prices, right? Think about, for example, what happened to the price of gasoline during the summer months? Well, it's not gonna happen this year. With the exception of this year, historically, what do you think has happened to the price of gasoline during the summer months?
It goes up because people
It
are
goes
traveling.
up. And the reason is because individuals are taking more vacations, right? So now, what will happen if the supply is the one that shifts? No. Now, this is the market. This is the supply and the demand. Look, let me give you a true story of this. And I don't know, you'll be, well, you can relate to this. But in 1981, I came to Lee as a freshman. And in 1981, that's how many years ago? That was 40, somebody help me with the math, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 39 years ago. 39 years ago, I came to Lee as a freshman. And before I came to Lee as a freshman, I used to be the weekend manager of a Pizza Hut. I was 19 years of age then, right? I'm sorry, that's when I graduated. I came to Lee in 1970, what? Trying to remember, when did I came? In 1979? Yeah, I think it's 1970. I don't remember when I came to Lee. I came to Lee 1979. I came to Lee 40 years ago. In 1979, 40 years ago, I was a young man. I was a 20-year-old guy. I used to be working for Pizza Hut back in Texas, and I came over here. and I asked for a transfer. And in 1979, guys, 40 years ago, the price of a large pepperoni pizza was $19.99. Now think about this. In 1979, the price of a large pepperoni pizza was $19.99, right? At that point, the cost of production for a large pepperoni pizza was $1.67. So Pizza Hut was making a killing. It cost us $1.67 to make it, and we were selling the pizza for $19.99. The dream of every individual in the year of the late 1970s was to have a Pizza Hut franchise. And the reason was because that's where the really money was. That's where the dough was. You know, that's where you can make money. Forget about the McDonald's, forget about the Burger King, forget about the Wendy's. It's a Pizza Hut franchise. So individuals begin to try to buy the franchise of Pizza Hut, and they realized that it was too expensive. So then other chains begin to emerge. So in the 1980s, we have now Domino's came into the market. And then Papa John and Uncle John and Mama John and Friend John. And now 40 years later, as a result of the increase in supply, right, you can buy a large pepperoni pizza for $5 and you don't even have to wait. It's hot and ready for you because the supply, the number of producers have increased throughout the years. So you can see then supply also impact prices. So then what determines the price of an item? Well, the price of the item is determined by the interaction of the producers and the consumers. The price of an item is not determined by who makes the product or how valuable the raw material was in this product. It's actually the consumers, the one that determine the price to a certain extent, because they are the one that actually determine if they want to buy it or not. Okay. So think about this. If you are the producer, you can bring a product to the market and you can try to sell it at a price that you want. You know, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to sell it, because it's the consumers, the one that determine, you know, if they're going to pay for it or not. Okay, so then the equilibrium price of every product is simply determined by the forces of supply and demand. Okay, any questions? Okay, so again, in this situation, for example, at a price of PE, the market is in equilibrium. We are buying everything being produced. But look what happened if the price changes. For some reason, let's assume that the price changes and now the price becomes P high. Well, at a price of P high, the demand decreases and the supply increases. And as you can see then at this point, the market is in this equilibrium. And again, simple to understand. The market was originally in equilibrium, let's say, at a price of 20, and consumers were buying 100 units of this product. Okay, the market was in equilibrium at this level. At a price of 20, consumers were buying 100 units. Now, what will happen, for example, if the price jumped to 30? What do consumers do when the price goes up, according to the law of demand? According to the law of demand, as the price goes up, the quantity demanded is going to decrease. So consumers are going to buy a little bit less units, right? So now consumers are going to buy only, let's say, 80 units. But what is the first thing that producers do when the price goes up? Producers increase the productivity because now they think they're going to make more money, right? And producers now want to sell, let's say, 120 units. So as you can see, at a price of 30, what we have is a surplus. In other words, companies are producing 120 units, consumers are only buying 80, so we have a surplus of 40 units. We have inventory accumulations. How do companies get rid of inventories? How can a company get rid of inventories?
Big sale.
Yeah, by having a big sale. So the company reduced the price to $10. Now, immediately at a price, it went from 30 to 10, consumers want to buy a lot of units. So now consumers, right, want to buy 160 units, right? So now, as a result of this, now we have a problem that the quantity demanded exceeds the quantity supply. So on this case, we have an actual shortage of goods, right? And that's how prices are determined, by the interaction of supply and demand, you know, and how people behave and how companies behave in the number of units they're actually buying, okay? So equilibrium price is at the point in which consumers are buying everything produced. If the price is too high, consumers buy less, producers produce more, and now we have a situation and we have inventories, we have surpluses, and the companies are gonna have to get rid of that. They lower the price. If the price drops too low, right, and let's assume the price now becomes P low, the demand is higher than the supply. In this situation, what we have is actually a shortage. So as you can see, then the price is not a fixed thing in time, but price of items is a continuous movement towards equilibrium. Prices go up, prices come down based on the amount of demand and based on the amount of supply. Okay, so prices can change as a result of changes in demand. For example, what happens if everybody wants to buy a product? Or what happens if supply decreases, right? And again, we can see this. For example, in this situation, consumers were buying this quantity at this price. If for some reason, let's say this is the demand for a specific eatable product, something that you eat. Now people realize that this is a very good price, that this is good, that this is tasty. And now people begin to share the information with their neighbors. Oh, by the way, let me tell you, I went to this restaurant and the price for the product was incredibly low and the food was really good. And now more people are going to go to the restaurant. So then demand shifts to the right. And when demand shifts to the right, then prices eventually are going to go up because everybody's buying it, right? So then what happened, for example, if the situation happened and people don't want to buy this product anymore. So if people don't buy this product anymore, the demand decreases to the left. And as you can see, now we go into a lower equilibrium and the price now decreases because people are not buying that product. Can you think of any product that today the demand has actually decreased dramatically? Can you think of any product that in the last 3 weeks, the last 2 months, the demand has decreased dramatically?
Food in grocery stores.
Okay, actually the demand for grocery products have actually increased to the right because people are cooking more at the houses. And I was just looking at the news. The price of meat has going up, the price of vegetables has going up, the price of a lot of things are going up by an average of 5% because people are increasing the demand for grocery products. But think what happened to the price of the price of gasoline. Right? The demand for gasoline has decreased dramatically. When was the last time you put gas on your car, guys? I have a big Nissan Armada. You know, give me 12 miles per gallon. It's the worst car in the industry. I mean, do a Google search, the worst car in the industry for per miles per gallon. And it's gonna have a picture of my car. It's a Nissan Armada. It gives you 12, I'm not exaggerating, guys. This is true. The car gives you 12 miles per gallon. You know, if you're going downhill, probably you're lucky, you'll get 13 miles an hour. Okay, so every time I fill my tank, it's about $50. So I only live 8 miles from campus. And I have to fill up my tank every single week. So it's $50 per week to fill the tank in my car. I fill it once a week, just to go to campus, just to go to school, just to go to school. So then in the last 2 months, I have been at the house. So I have not purchased any gasoline. I think I still have the same quarter of a tank that I left the last time I parked my car. As a matter of fact, 2 days ago, I tried to start my car and the battery was dead because I had not started for 2 weeks. So as you can see, then, I mean, we're using my wife's car when we go buy groceries or something to eat in the afternoons. So I have not buy any gas. And just like me, there's millions of people that have not actually buy. So as a result of this, then the demand for gasoline has decreased, and you can see the result of the price of gasoline. So the price of gasoline has decreased as a result that the demand for gasoline has actually decreased. So then the price was established by the new supply and demand. Now look on the other hand, what happened to prices if supply changes. I gave you the example about pizza. If supply increases, there are more sellers on the market, and the equilibrium price is going to decrease, right? What happened on the other hand is supply decreases. Think about, for example, I'm trying to think about the airline industry. Think about what happened to the airline industry. What is happening to the airline industry today as we speak?
Well, not many people are flying, and so they're not making as much money.
Exactly. The demand for airline travel have decreased. Anybody know about how much? I can tell you, this will blow your mind. Airline travel have decreased by 95%. 95%. Companies are losing their pants, their shirts. I'm talking about they are losing money. American Airlines is losing $1 million a day. 1 million. They don't even have money to pay or to reimburse individuals for the tickets they have canceled. Right? So as a result of this, probably some airlines are going to go out of business. I believe I mentioned this in the last class. The second oldest airline company in the world, Avianca. Avianca is an airline company out of Colombia. It's the second oldest company, continuous in operation in the world. And they just declared bankruptcy. So I believe, for example, if you want to travel today, you can get incredibly good prices. You can get incredibly good prices. But nobody's traveling because wherever you go, they're going to put you in quarantine. Right? So people are not traveling. So then what is my expectation of what's going to happen to the airline industry, let's say 5 months from now? Let's assume that we find a cure, a vaccine, or a treatment to make people better. Right? I believe that the price of air travel is going to increase dramatically, not because people are going to increase dramatically the number of times they're going to travel, but because the number of airline companies in business are going to be fewer than today. And again, that's my speculation that's going to happen. Some airline companies are going to go out of business. Some routes are not going to be longer there. So as a result of this, then air travel is going to go up. And that's exactly what happened. And that's how the market operates. Changes in supply, changes in demand affect prices. Okay? So if supply decreases, well, prices are going to go up. Right? So in summary, we say that the market is in disequilibrium every time we have a shortage or we have a surplus. In other words, if we are producing too much, the market is in disequilibrium, we have a surplus, and if we have a surplus, the only way we can get rid of inventories is by prices coming down. On the other hand, if companies are not making enough and there's a shortage, then companies get a signal that everybody wants to buy the products and the prices are going to go up. So then either a shift on demand or supply is going to affect, the equilibrium prices. So then as you can see, then the outcome or the questions of what are we going to make, how are we going to make it, and for whom we're going to make it, to a certain extent is actually determined by the price of that raw material, and the price of that raw material is actually depends on how much is the supply or how much is the demand. Now, it is possible that the government can try to intervene in the market by putting price ceilings or price floors. And let me explain what that means. Look, let's assume that this is the market for houses. On the average, individuals are paying $500 a month, let's say, for a 2-bedroom house. And let's say in the city of Cleveland, we are demanding 500 apartments. Now, what will happen if these individuals renting the house, these 100 individuals, come to the government and say, you need to help us, you need to help us, and we need for you to force the prices to come down. So the government creates an arbitrary price, and the government say, okay, price cannot be more than $400. Well, look what happened at a price of $400. At a price of $400, the demand is going to increase, because some people say, hey, I can go out and find my own apartment now, I can afford it. But producers are going to say, hey, at a price of $400, I cannot make money on my unit. I'm just going to take it out of the market, or I'm not going to rent it. See, that's what a price ceiling will do, right? So then a price ceiling create shortages. Now, what happens if the government decide to create a price floor? Let me explain this with minimum wages. Let's say the market is paying $6. Well, actually, I think the minimum wage is now $7.25. And this is the supply and the demand in this market. The people unite and come to the government and say, hey, minimum wage of $7.25 is not enough for me to make it. And the government decide to make $12 the minimum wage. And look what happened at a price of $12. At a price of $12, now the supply, more people, more college students or more high school kids and say, I want to look for a job. So then what's happening is that now they're going to be 100 people looking for jobs, but companies are only going to be able to hire 80 people because the wages are too high. So then the question is, what happens when we impose minimum wages? Right? When we impose the minimum wages, we create a surplus of people willing to work, right? But as a result of this, the companies are going to hire less people because the wages or the price is actually higher. So then think about this. Why do we try to increase minimum wage? Who are we trying to help? Who are we trying to help every time we increase minimum wages? We're trying to help those people working for minimum wages. These guys that were earning $7.25, now they're going to make $12. But in reality, what we do when we increase minimum wages, instead of hiring more workers, now we actually hiring less workers. So instead of helping the people that we intend to help, we actually harming them because now they are not going to be able to find a job. Okay, so that's the situation when the government decides to create price ceilings or price floors. So price ceiling is the maximum you can sell something, and price floors is the minimum you can sell something. Okay, again, if the government say the price is too high, you have to do it for this, then we have a shortage. If the price is too high, is the opposite. And this is the end of the chapter, guys. This is the end of the chapter. Okay, so we just simply learn supply and demand and how supply and demand actually